press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hello dear students, I welcome you all for Biology Kcet discussion class. In this session, we are going to discuss split test 5 Kcet Zoology paper. Let us start. First question. The action potential is determined largely by influx of sodium ions, efflux of sodium ions, influx of both sodium and potassium ions, and influx of potassium ions. See, action potential, it is nothing but a nerve impulse. We know that neurons are the excitable cells, right? So that means their membrane, no, it is in a polarized state. That means the neurons are covered by a membrane that is called as neural membrane. And similarly, the part of a neuron that is axon, no, that is also covered by a membrane that is called as axonal membrane. Okay, so inside the axon, the cytoplasm is present, that is called as the axoplasm. And the neurons, no, outside, the neurons are surrounded by a fluid that is called as the extracellular fluid. For example, see here, if it is an axon, so it's the axonal membrane. Okay, what is present inside? The cytoplasm, that is the axoplasm. And axon, it is a part of a neuron. Okay, so a typical neuron has three parts: cell body, dendrites, and the axon. So outside the neurons on its outer side are surrounded by a fluid that is called as extracellular fluid. What is present outside the neuron? That is extracellular fluid. Okay, and inside the axon, what is present here? This is the cytoplasm, that is the axoplasm. So both the fluids present on the outside and on the inside contains ions. They are composed of ions, like which ions? Sodium ions, potassium ions, chloride ions, and calcium ions. Okay, so these are the ions. So the fluid on the outer side and as well as the inside that contains various types of ions like sodium ions, potassium ions, chloride ions, and the calcium ions. So some of these ions are positively charged and some of them are negatively charged, no? So here, this is the axonal membrane, right? So this axon membrane is having certain channels or passages. Okay, so these passages, so these passages are called as ion channels. So this is the axonal membrane, which is having certain passages for the passage of these ions. Okay, so these are called as ion channels. Okay, so these ion channels which are present in the axonal membrane are selectively permeable to different ions. That means they allow only one type of ions to pass through it, either sodium ions or potassium ions or chloride ions or calcium ions. Accordingly, they are called as sodium gated channels, potassium gated channels, and so on. Okay, so these ion channels which are present now, these ion channels, some of the ion channels, they always remain open. They are called as leak channels. But some ion channels, they remain closed and they open only when a suitable stimulus is applied to the axonal membrane. Okay, so when stimulus is applied, at that time only the ionic channels will open. So such ionic channels are called as voltage gated channels. Okay, now in a resting neuron, that means when a neuron is not conducting any impulse, this axonal membrane is more permeable to potassium ions. So in a resting neuron, that means when a neuron is not conducting any impulse, ಈಗ ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಇಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ನ ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಆದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆಕ್ಸಾನಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಆಕ್ಸಾನಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಈಸ್ permeable to, it is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions. So the axonal membrane is more permeable to comparatively it is more permeable to potassium ions and nearly impermeable to sodium ions. Nearly impermeable to sodium ions and impermeable to the negatively charged proteins which are present in the axoplasm. So, in the resting neuron, the axonal membrane is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions, nearly impermeable to sodium ions, and impermeable to the negatively charged proteins. So, the axoplasm is having a high concentration of, okay, so it is high concentration of potassium ions and negatively charged proteins. And the fluid which is present outside the axonal membrane, no, so it is having high concentration of sodium ions. Okay, so axoplasm is having high concentration of potassium ions and negatively charged proteins, and the fluid which is outside the axonal membrane is having more sodium ions. And this concentration gradient, no, this is maintained by active transport of these ions by sodium potassium pump. So this concentration gradient and the ionic gradients, no, so these ionic gradients are maintained by the action potential, that is maintained by the active transport of ions by sodium potassium pump. So which transport 3 sodium ions outward. ಎಷ್ಟು sodium ions ನ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹಾಕುತ್ತೆ 3 sodium ions ನ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹಾಕುತ್ತೆ for every 2 potassium ions into the cell. So ಎರಡು potassium ions ಒಳಗಡೆ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಎಷ್ಟು sodium ions ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ 3 sodium ions ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. Okay, so that outside the membrane is having sodium ions, no, more of sodium ions which are positively charged, no. So the outside membrane, the fluid, so the axonal membrane on its outer side is, so on its outer side it is having more of sodium ions, no. So the outer side of the across the axonal membrane, no, it is positively charged. Okay, and the axoplasm is rich in protein, it is rich in negatively charged proteins and potassium ions which is negatively charged. Okay, so inside there is a negative charge and outside there is a positive charge. Okay, now this membrane is said to be, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, polarized state ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Okay, now the membrane is in a polarized state. So outside it is having positively charged and inner side it is negatively charged, and the membrane it is said to be a polarized state. Okay, now whenever a suitable stimulus is applied, okay, so generation of nerve impulse action potential ಹೇಗೆ generate ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So the generation of action potential requires a suitable and a large stimulus. So whenever a suitable stimulus is applied to a polarized membrane, okay, so at a particular site, say we take this site is A site, and from here to here this is the A site, and from here onwards this is the B site. Okay, now suppose if a particular stimulus is applied onto A site, what happens? The sodium gated channels will open. Ionic channels are present in this axonal membrane, no. So in that the sodium, whenever a suitable stimulus is applied to this polarized membrane, what happens? The sodium, there is a sudden opening of the sodium gated channels. So as a result, the sodium ions will rapidly enter into the neuron. Okay, so this rapid influx of sodium ions causes so change in the electrical difference. Now, so I'll write here. So this is a polarized membrane. So what happens when a suitable stimulus is applied at a site A? What happens at the site A? So sodium gated channels will open, more sodium ions will enter into the neuron. Okay, so as a result, the outside membrane now it becomes negatively charged due to the rapid movement of or rapid influx of sodium ions into the neuron or into the nerve cell. Okay, so and then inner side it becomes positively charged. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ, outside here the polarized state. So outside the membrane, that is axonal membrane outside, there is a more of positive charge, and inner side it is negatively charged. So when a suitable stimulus is applied, the sodium ion gated channels will open, sodium ions will enter into the cell, and this causes charge difference. So outside the membrane become negatively charged and inner side becomes positively charged. Okay, so this reversal is called as, so now this membrane is said to be a depolarized state. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? Depolarized. So this electrical potential difference across the axonal membrane at a site is called as what? Action potential. So ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಈಗ? Action potential. So this electrical potential difference across the axonal membrane at the A site is called as action potential. It is called as action potential. So it is nothing but what? Nerve impulse. So what is the question here? The action potential is determined largely by four options they have given: influx of sodium ions, efflux of sodium ions, influx of both sodium and potassium ions, and influx of potassium ions. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ action potential generate ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ, nerve impulse generate ಆಯ್ತು. ಯಾಕೆ generate ಆಯ್ತು? It is because of the rapid influx of sodium ions. Okay, so what is the correct option here? The action potential is determined largely by the influx of sodium ions. Got it? Then. So the right option here is first one. Then next question. The somatic neural system relays impulses from CNS to skeletal muscles. That means central nervous system to skeletal muscles. From central nervous system to involuntary organs. From peripheral nervous system to voluntary organs, and from peripheral nervous system to smooth muscles. See, the nervous system is a complex system which controls all the body activities. Okay, so this neural system mainly consists of two major parts, that is a central nervous system and a peripheral nervous system. So that central nervous system which lies at the central axis of the body, that constitute brain and the spinal cord. So central nervous system is having brain and the spinal cord, and the nerves which arising from the central nervous system. So those all the nerves of the body which are associated with the central nervous system, no, they are called as what? Peripheral nervous system. Then this peripheral nervous system, it consists of both afferent nerve fibers and as well as afferent nerve fibers. So afferent nerve fibers will carry impulses, the regulatory information from CNS to the concerned tissues and organs, whereas the afferent neurons will carry the sensory information from various tissues and organs to the central nervous system. Okay, so the peripheral nervous system is divided into again two types, that is the somatic neural system and the autonomic neural system. So here the somatic neural system relays impulses, that means they transmit impulses from where to where. That's the question. So the right answer here is the somatic neural system relays impulses from CNS to skeletal muscles. So the efferent nerves of somatic neural system will transmit the impulses, the regulatory impulses from the central nervous system to the concerned skeletal muscles. Okay, so here from central nervous system to involuntary organs, the second option they are given here is from central nervous system to involuntary organs. No, the system which relays impulses from central nervous system to involuntary organs are the, that is the autonomic nervous system. Okay, autonomic nervous system will send impulses from central nervous system to involuntary organs, and from third option what they have given, from PNS to voluntary organs, and similarly fourth option they have given from PNS to smooth muscles. So it is not from PNS to voluntary or smooth muscles, because PNS itself, it is a peripheral nervous system. Okay, so the nerves, that is the afferent nerve fibers of peripheral nervous system will carry impulses from CNS to the effector, that is concerned tissues and organs. Okay, so the right option here is the somatic neural system relays impulses from central nervous system to skeletal muscles. So first option is correct here. The next question. Cytoplasm with typical cell organelles and Nissel's granules is present in the axon hillock, synaptic vesicles, axon and a cell body. See, a cytoplasm with typical cell organelles and Nissel's granules is present in the four options they have given. So you know the structure of neuron, right? A typical neuron has three major parts. One is the cell body, dendrites arising from the cell body are the dendrites and the axon, right? The part of the axon which attaches to the cell body, that forms the axon hillock, and the synaptic vesicles. So the cell arising from the cell body is another long process that is called as the axon. See, if it is a so these are the dendrites and this is a cell body. Okay, arising from the cell body is a long process that is called as the axon. Okay, so the distal end of the axon is branched out into a number of branches which ends up in a bulb-like structure that is called, this is called as the synaptic nerve. Okay, so the synaptic nerve contains synaptic vesicles which contains the neurotransmitters. So here the cytoplasm with typical cell organelles and Nissl granules is present in the cell body. Okay, so this is the cell body. Arising from the cell body are two processes. These are the dendrites, so which will carry information towards the cell body. And one more long process which is arising from the cell body is the axon. This will carry impulses away from the cell body. Okay, so the cell body is having a cytoplasm is present here. In the center we have a nucleus here, and the cytoplasm also contains various cell organelles like endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, ribosome, okay, mitochondria, and all these cell organelles are present in the cytoplasm. So apart from that cell organelles, the cytoplasm is also having some granular structures. Okay, so these granular structures are called as Nissel's granules. So the presence of these Nissl granules in the cytoplasm of the cell body of the neuron will give a slight color appearance to the cytoplasm. So then what is the function of Nissl granules? The function of Nissl granules is they are supposed to be believe in the protein synthesis in the body of neurons. So their main function is to be protein synthesis. Okay. So cytoplasm with the typical cell organelles and Nissel's granules is present in which part of the neuron? That is in the options given. Four options they have given. Axon illa, synaptic vesicles, axon and cell body. Four options ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರಲ್ಲ ಆ four options ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದರಲ್ಲಿ Nissls granules ಇರುತ್ತೆ, cell body ನಲ್ಲಿ Nissls granules ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So the right option here is the fourth one, that is the cell body. Then next question. In a resting neuron, the axonal membrane is impermeable to positively charged proteins present in the axoplasm, comparatively more permeable to potassium ions, completely permeable to sodium ions, and nearly impermeable to potassium ions. So as we discussed in the first question, right? So in a resting neuron, the axonal membrane, that means when a neuron is not conducting any impulse, when it is in a resting state, this axonal membrane is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions. Okay, and nearly impermeable to sodium ions, and almost completely that is impermeable to the negatively charged proteins which are present in the axoplasm. So that's why the axoplasm is having high concentration of potassium and positively charged ions, positively charged proteins, and whereas the outside fluid, okay, that is outside the axonal membrane is high concentration of sodium ions. So in a resting neuron, the axonal membrane is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions. What is the first option they have given? They are impermeable to positively charged proteins present in the axoplasm. So this is wrong. Why? Because The inner resting neuron, the axonal membrane is impermeable to negatively charged proteins but not the positively charged proteins. Okay, so it is impermeable to negatively charged proteins which are present in the axoplasm. Then second one is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions. Yes, it is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions and completely permeable to sodium ions. Now it is nearly impermeable to sodium ions and nearly impermeable to potassium ions, the fourth option they are given, right? So the fourth option is also wrong because it is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions. So the right option here is the second one. Inner resting neuron, the axonal membrane is comparatively more permeable to potassium ions. Next question. A synapse is formed by, first option they are given all of this, presynaptic membrane, synaptic cleft and postsynaptic membrane. Okay, what is a synapse? See, the nerve impulses will transfer from one neuron to another neuron through junctions that is called as synapse. So how the synapse is formed here? So this is the axonal ending. So the distal end of the axon is having branches, no? So that branches will end up in a knob-like structure that is called as a synaptic knob. So synaptic knob. Okay. So here synapse is what? A nerve impulse transmitted from one neuron to the other neuron through junctions, what it is called as synapse. So here the synapse is formed by, this is the presynaptic membrane. Okay, so this is the presynaptic, membrane. Okay, so and here is this is a postsynaptic membrane. So the gap which is present between the presynaptic neuron and the postsynaptic neuron, so this is called as synaptic cleft. Okay, so inside the synaptic nerve, what are present here? Synaptic vesicles are present here. So the synaptic vesicles, they contain neurotransmitters. Okay, so here a synapse is formed by a synapse here, it is formed by a presynaptic membrane. What is presynaptic membrane here? The presynaptic membrane which is transmitting the impulse to our next neuron is the presynaptic membrane and it is present before the synaptic cleft. What is present here? This is the gap which is present between these two neurons. It is called as synaptic cleft alva. So this presynaptic membrane is present before the synaptic cleft. Okay, and this is the postsynaptic membrane which is present after the synaptic cleft and it will receive the impulses from the presynaptic neuron. Okay, so all the three together form a synapse. So a presynaptic membrane, synaptic cleft and postsynaptic membrane. Okay, all are involved in the formation of synapse. Okay, so here the synapse is formed by presynaptic membrane, synaptic cleft. Sorry, listen here once again. Mostly cancel answer tanimige. So this is the presynaptic membrane and this is the postsynaptic membrane. This is the synaptic cleft. So here presynaptic membrane is the one which transmit impulse to the next neuron, and it is present before the synaptic cleft, and the postsynaptic membrane is present after the synaptic cleft. It will receive the impulse. Okay, as I said. So here the synapse is formed by both presynaptic membrane, synaptic cleft, and postsynaptic membrane. Okay. So the right option here is all of these. The synapse is formed by all of these. That is, all of this is the correct one. A presynaptic membrane, synaptic cleft, postsynaptic membrane. Okay, are involved in the formation of synapse. So the right option here is all of these. Then next question. Choose the incorrect statement for autonomic nervous system. Okay, yes. Choose the incorrect statement for autonomic nervous system. It consists of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, axon skeletal muscles, transmit impulse from CNS to involuntary organs, and axon smooth muscles. So here, autonomic nervous system. So as I said, the peripheral nervous system is further divided into two alva, that is peripheral, that is somatic neural system, and the autonomic neural system, or we can say that somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. So here the autonomic nervous system, the somatic neural system will transmit impulses from central nervous system to skeletal muscles, right? So the option 4 here is wrong. It acts on, sorry, option 2 is wrong here, because what is given in the option 2, it acts on skeletal muscles, because it will not act on skeletal muscles. The somatic nervous system will act on skeletal muscles, and whereas the autonomic nervous system will act on the involuntary organs and also on the smooth muscles which are found in the wall of all organs like alimentary canal, blood vessels, the reproductive tract, the smooth muscles. So the autonomic nervous system will act on the smooth muscles and also the glands of the body. And it consists of autonomic nervous system. Further, it consists of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So here sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, no, they work antagonistic. They have an antagonistic effect on the organs. That means they have an opposite effect on the organs. So if one is excitatory agidre, another one is inhibiting. Okay. So like that, because of the difference in the nature of the neurotransmitters are released by the sympathetic nerve endings and the parasympathetic nerve endings. So the neurotransmitter which is released by the parasympathetic nerve endings are acetylcholine, whereas the neurotransmitters released by the sympathetic nerve endings, no, they are adrenaline and noradrenaline. So this adrenaline and noradrenaline, they have opposite effect to that of this acetylcholine. So that's why if a sympathetic nerve ending excites a particular organ and the parasympathetic will inhibit it. For example, ಈಗ ನಾವು heartbeat ನ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ the sympathetic nervous system ಏನಿದೆ, it accelerates the heartbeat, whereas parasympathetic nervous system, no, it will slows down the heartbeat. Okay, so that's why they have an antagonistic effect on the organs. So first statement what they have given consists of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So that is right only. It acts on skeletal muscles. No, it will not act on skeletal muscles. The efferent nerve fibers present in the autonomic nervous system will transmit impulses from CNS to involuntary organs. So the third option is also right. And it acts on smooth muscles. Yes, it will also transmit impulses from central nervous system to the smooth muscles. So except the second option, all the statements regarding autonomic nervous system are correct one. The incorrect statement is with regard to autonomous nervous system is it acts on skeletal muscles. So the right option here is second one. Next question. The body temperature regulatory center in the brain is cerebellum, corpus callosum, hypothalamus, hippocampus. the body temperature regulatory center in the brain is. So you know that brain is differentiated into three major portions. One is the forebrain, midbrain and the hindbrain. So forebrain is having the parts, different parts like cerebrum, thalamus, hypothalamus. Okay. So here, one of the important part of the forebrain is the hypothalamus, which is, as the name itself indicates, hypothalamus. Alva. So it is located at the base of the thalamus. So it controls, it performs many important functions like it has many centers which will control the body temperature. So it will keep the body temperature roughly around 37 degree Celsius by a complex thermostat mechanism. And also urge for eating, urge for drinking, they're all under the control of hypothalamus. So the body temperature regulatory center in the brain is hypothalamus. So cerebellum they have given first option. So cerebellum is not a part of forebrain, it is a part of hindbrain. Corpus callosum. So it's also a part of forebrain. It is nothing but a tract of nerve fibers which connects the two cerebral hemispheres of the forebrain. Hypothalamus is a body temperature regulatory center, contains body temperature regulatory center, and hippocampus. Hippocampus, it is with amygdala, it forms a limbic system. So this limbic system along with the hypothalamus controls certain human behavior like sexual behavior, then expression of emotional reactions. Okay, so that is all. That is the function of the hippocampus. Limbic system together with hypothalamus will do that function. So here body temperature regulatory center in the brain is located. In the brain is hypothalamus. Third option is correct. The next question. The brainstem is made up of, first option cerebellum, cerebrum, medulla oblongata. Second option midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata. Third option midbrain, pons, cerebellum. Fourth option diencephalon, medulla oblongata and cerebellum. So the brain stem, as I said, the brain is having three regions. Alright, it is differentiated into forebrain, midbrain and the hindbrain. Forebrain is having what? Cerebrum, thalamus, hypothalamus. And the midbrain, it is present between the hypothalamus, the thalamus or hypothalamus of a forebrain and the pons or orally of the hindbrain. Okay, then after that the hindbrain. Hindbrain is having three parts. Pons, cerebellum, which is also called as little brain, and the medulla oblongata. So here the brain stem is formed of midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. All the three together forms a brain stem, so which connect the forebrain with the spinal cord. Okay, so the brain stem is made up of midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. So the right option here is the second one. So the brain stem is made up of midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. Okay, the next question. Bipolar neurons are found in, first option choroid, second option retina, third option cornea, fourth option sclera. Bipolar neurons. So as I said, you know the structure of a neuron, right? That is, it is having a cell body. Arising from the cell body are dendrites and axon. So depending upon the number of axon and dendrites the neurons possess, the neurons are of three types. Majorly neurons are of three types. That is unipolar neurons, bipolar neurons and multipolar neurons. Unipolar neurons are having the cell body which possesses only one axon and the dendrites are absent. So they are having only one pole, no? So that's why they are called as unipolar neurons. So these unipolar neurons are present in the embryonic stage. Whereas bipolar neurons are the ones in which the cell body, which possess a cell body with one dendrite, only one dendrite and one axon. So two poles are developed here. Okay, that is one axon and one dendrite. So such neurons are called as bipolar neurons. So bipolar neurons only, the cell body possesses only one dendrite and one axon. So such neurons are called as bipolar neurons. So these bipolar neurons are present in the retina of the eye. So all the parts given here. So what are the parts given here? Choroid, retina, cornea, sclera. Okay, all are the different parts of an eye, but bipolar neurons are the ones. So similarly, multipolar neurons anta heladre, the multipolar neurons which possess the cell body with the cell here in multipolar neurons, the cell body is having many dendrites. It possesses many dendrites and only one axon. Such neurons are called as multipolar neurons. Multipolar neurons are present in the cerebral cortex of the brain. Okay. So, but here bipolar neurons, no. So, the bipolar neurons are found in the retina of the eye. So, the second option here is correct. The next question. In altitude sickness, the body compensates low oxygen availability by increasing the binding affinity of hemoglobin. Second option, all of the above. Increasing the red blood cell formation. Fourth option, decreasing the breathing rate. I repeat the question once again. In altitude sickness, the body compensates low oxygen availability by increasing the binding affinity of hemoglobin. All of the above. Increasing red blood cell formation, decreasing the breathing rate. Right? So, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, in altitude, if we move on to a high altitude place, ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ನಾವು high altitude placeಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ, so ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, the body start experiencing the symptoms like nausea, okay, that is nothing but vomiting sensation, fatigue and heart palpitations. So these symptoms are which develop when we go to a high altitude, no? So these symptoms are called as altitude sickness. So that is called as altitude sickness. So these are the symptoms of altitude sickness. So we develop these symptoms, altitude sickness, when we move to a high altitude, because at high altitudes the atmospheric pressure is low and body does not get enough oxygen. Enough body ge sigbekagutte oxygen pramana enagutte kadme agutte, so that the body will not get enough oxygen, alva. So but after some time what happens, slowly we stop experiencing these symptoms, that is the symptoms of altitude sickness. So why? Because the body, it compensates this low, it start compensate the low oxygen availability, okay, by increasing the red blood cell formation. So ಈಗ high altitude ಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ atmospheric pressure ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, so body will not, it does not get enough oxygen, alva, but so that will develop all symptoms of altitude sickness. But after some time we stop the experiencing these symptoms. Why? Because the body compensates the low oxygen availability at the high altitude by increasing the red blood cell formation. So ನಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ RBC cells production ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, and also the breathing rate increases and decreases the binding capacity of the hemoglobin. Okay, so here 4 options they are given, right? Increasing the binding affinity of hemoglobin, all of the above, increasing the red blood cell formation, decreasing the breathing rate. So body compensates low oxygen availability by decreasing the binding affinity of the hemoglobin, not by increasing the binding affinity of hemoglobin. So second option, all of the above. Not all the options are correct here, so second one is also wrong. Third one, increasing red blood cell formation. Yes, body compensates the low oxygen availability at high altitude by increasing RBCs, red blood cell formation, and decreasing the breathing rate. Fourth option, decreasing the breathing rate they have given, but breathing rate will not decrease, instead breathing rate increases. Okay, so the right option here is third one. In altitude sickness, the body compensates low oxygen availability by increasing the red blood cell formation. So third option is correct here. The next question. Receptor sites for neurotransmitters are present on. Receptor sites for neurotransmitters are present on. First option, postsynaptic membrane. Second option, membranes of synaptic vesicles. Third option, tips of axons. Fourth option, presynaptic membrane. So here, receptor sites for neurotransmitters are present on. See here, as I said, the nerve impulses are transmitted from one neuron to another neuron through a synapse, which is formed by presynaptic membrane, synaptic So which is formed by a presynaptic membrane, a synaptic cleft and a postsynaptic membrane. Got it? So here the nerve impulses are transmitted from one neuron to another neuron with the help of neurotransmitters. So here, see here, this is the synaptic nerve. So what is present inside the synaptic nerve? Axoplasm that contains synaptic vesicles. So these synaptic vesicles will contain neurotransmitters. Okay. So whenever a nerve signal whenever a signal or a stimulus reaches a nerve ending, what happens? This will stimulate the movement of the synaptic vesicles towards the presynaptic membrane, and these synaptic vesicles will fuses with the presynaptic membrane and releases this acetylcholine, releases the acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. Okay, so these neurotransmitters will bind to the receptors which are present on the postsynaptic membrane. So the receptors for a neurotransmitter, receptor sites for neurotransmitters are present on postsynaptic membrane. Okay, so once the neurotransmitter bind with the receptors which are present on the postsynaptic neuron, ion gated channels open. As a result, sodium gated channels open. Ions will enter, sodium ions will enter into the membrane. So that causes. So when the neurotransmitter bind with the receptor site, ion gated channels will open, the ions will enter inside, okay, thus create an action potential or generating an action potential or a nerve impulse. So the receptor sites for neurotransmitters are present on the postsynaptic membrane. So the right option here is first one. First option what they have given, postsynaptic membrane, membranes of synaptic vesicles, tips of the axon, presynaptic membranes. The receptor sites for neurotransmitters are located on postsynaptic membrane. Okay, so the first option is correct. The next question. All of the following are parts of a forebrain except. All of the following are parts of a forebrain except cerebellum, hypothalamus, corpus callosum, association areas. So here, cerebellum is a part of hindbrain, okay, whereas hypothalamus, corpus callosum, association areas. So these are all parts of forebrain. So hypothalamus, which is located at the base of the thalamus, so it is temperature. It has having the center which controls body temperature and also urge for eating and urge for drinking. Corpus callosum, that corpus callosum nothing but a tract of nerve fibers which connects the two cerebral hemispheres, and association areas are present inside the cerebral hemispheres. They are concerned with the intelligence and the memory. Okay, so all these hypothalamus, corpus callosum and association areas, so they are all a parts of forebrain except the cerebellum. So the cerebellum is a part of hindbrain. It's also called as little brain. So the first option is correct. Cerebellum, it is not a part of forebrain. Next question. Barnacles growing on the back of whale is an example of. First one, mutualism. Second one, commensalism. The third one is parasitism. And the fourth one is amensalism. See, barnacles growing on the back of whale. So barnacles anta helada, they are nothing but tiny little crustaceans which live on the back of the whale. So by attaching with the, or else by living on the back of the whale, they will get a shelter from the whale. Okay, so the barnacles get benefited in the form of shelter, but the barnacles will not cause any harm to the whale. Okay, like any other parasites do know. So the barnacles will not cause any harm to the whale, and it will also not offer any advantage to the whale, so that the whale remain unaffected. That means the whale is neither get hurt nor benefited. So here in this interaction, one of the species, that is barnacles, get benefited in the form of shelter, whereas the other species, it is remain unaffected, it neither get benefited nor harm. So this type of interaction is called as commensalism. Okay, so the right option here is commensalism. So first option what they have given, in first option they have given mutualism, no? So mutualism, in mutualism where both the species get benefited, right? But in commensalism, one of the species get benefited and the other is neither harm nor get benefited. Parasitism, one of the species get benefited and the other is harmed. Amensalism, one of the species is harmed and another species that has remained unaffected. Okay, so barnacles growing on the back of whale is an example of, here barnacles are benefited, the whale remain unaffected, no? So this is an example for commensalism. So the right option here is the second one. Then next question. The interaction between the organisms of one of the following pairs is an example for commensalism. First option, cattle or sheep and grass, orchid and mango tree, cuckoo and crow, and wasp and fig tree. So here the interaction between the organisms of one of the following pairs is an example for commensalism. As I said, commensalism is a type of interaction where one of the species get benefited and the other is neither harmed nor benefited. Alva. So in the four options they are given, first option is cattle or sheep and grass. So cattle or sheep eating on a grass, it's a predation. So one of the species get benefited, other is harmed, no. So it is not an example for commensalism. Orchid growing on the mango tree. So orchid, the epiphytes which growing on the mango tree will get a shelter from the mango tree. So the orchids get benefited, but mango tree it will remain unaffected. Okay, it neither get benefited. So its association with the orchid will neither get benefited nor it is harmed. Okay, so this is an example for orchid growing on a mango tree is an example for commensalism. Cuckoo and crow, third option. Cuckoo and crow are an example for brood parasitism. So where the parasitic bird will lay its egg in the host nest and let the host to incubate them. So that is a kind of parasitism, brood parasitism shown by the parasitic and the host birds. Then wasp and the fig tree. Here both the organisms, wasp and fig tree get pollinated by the wasp. So wasp in turn it will get reward from the fig tree in the form of they will get a food source, no, like pollen grain, and they will get the nectar, no. So both the species, their association is beneficial to both the organisms. So such association, it is called as mutualism. But here the interaction of between the organisms of one of the following pairs is an example for commensalism. So the right option here is the second one, orchid and the mango tree. Then next question. The age pyramid with broad base indicates high percentage of old individuals, a stable population, high percentage of young individuals, low percentage of young individuals. The age pyramid with a broad base indicates high percentage of old individuals, a stable population, high percentage of young individuals, and low percentage of young individuals. See, a population size at any given period of time having individuals of different age groups like pre-reproductive age group people irtare, reproductive age group people irtare, post-reproductive age group people irtare alva. So a population size at any given period of time having the individuals of different age groups like pre-reproductive age group people, reproductive age group people, and post-reproductive age group people. Okay, so if the pattern of that is different age groups is plotted for a population, that will give a structure that is called as the age pyramid. So age pyramid anta ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ it is nothing but a graphical representation of abundance of individuals of different age groups in which the pre-reproductive age group occupy at the base and followed by the reproductive age group people, and at the top there is a post-reproductive age group people. Okay, so there are three types of age pyramids we can see. One is the triangular shaped age pyramid, bell shaped age pyramid, and urn-shaped age pyramid. So here, what the question here is, the age pyramid with a broad base indicates. So broad base is anta so it is a bell-shaped pyramid. So the age pyramid will come like this. Okay. So here at the base are present pre-reproductive individuals, in the middle reproductive individuals, and at the top post-reproductive individuals. So here age pyramid with broad base anta helidare. So this is a bell-shaped age pyramid. So in this pyramid, the pre-reproductive age group individuals are almost equal to the reproductive age group individuals. Pre-reproductive age group individuals, so it is almost equal to the reproductive age group individuals alva. So hagagi ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, growth rate is almost zero here. So there is no increase or decrease in the size of a population as growth is almost zero here. Growth rate it is almost zero alva. So this is indicating a stable population. So a pyramid with a broad base is indicating a stable population because there is no decrease as the pre-reproductive age groups are equal to that of reproductive age group people. There will be no increase or decrease in the size of a population as the growth rate is almost zero. So this is indicating a stable population. So the right option here is the second one. The age pyramid with broad base indicates a stable population. The next, so the right option is second one. The next question. Warhurst-Paul is associated with the equation. First option, dn by dt equals Rn into k minus n divided by n. Second option, dn by dt equals Rn to k minus n divided by k. Third option, dn by dt equals Tn capital N k minus n divided by k. dn by dt, fourth option, dn by dt is equal to Tn to k minus n divided by n. So Warhurst-Paul is associated with. So there are two patterns in the population growth. One is the exponential growth and another one is the logistic growth. So in exponential growth, when the resources are unlimited in nature, so ಈಗ naturally resources, unlimited resources ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, so every organism it has a innate potential to use maximum use. Okay na? So ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, when the resources are unlimited, the population will grow in a geometric ratio rather than the arithmetic ratio. ಅಂದ್ರೆ population ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, size double ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. So that will when we plot a graph, we will obtain a J-shaped curve because when the resources are unlimited, the population will grow in a geometric ratio. No? So that we will obtain a J-shaped curve, and this equation for this exponential growth is dn by dt equals Rn. Whereas in logistic growth, when the resources are unlimited, so when the resources are unlimited, so in the nature, a given habitat has enough resource to support a maximum number. After that, beyond that, there will be no further growth. Okay. So that is called as nature's carrying capacity. That means in the nature, in a given habitat has enough resources to support a fully, that is maximum number. After that, there is no further increase in the growth. Further growth is not possible. Okay. So such a situation. So when you plot a graph of population density in relation to time, we will obtain a sigmoid curve. So initially there will be a lag phase followed by a phase of acceleration, then followed by a phase of deceleration, and finally it reaches the asymptote. Okay. So we will obtain a sigmoid curve, and this pattern of growth is also called as a Warhurst-Paul logistic growth, and this is given by the equation dn by dt equals Rn k minus n divided by k. So the right option here is the second one. That is dn by dt equals Rn k minus n divided by k is the equation which is associated with Paul-Hulst for logistic growth. Okay, then next question. Second option is correct here. Then next question. Select the correct option with respect to age pyramids. So three types of age pyramids are there as I told. The first age pyramid, it is representing a triangular age pyramid, and second age pyramid is representing a bell shape, and the third is unshaped age pyramid. So a population size at any time, that is in a given period of time, it is having a different age group people, that is pre-reproductive age group people, reproductive age group people, and post-reproductive age group people. So here the pre-reproductive age group people will occupy a base, followed by reproductive age. In this diagrammatic representation, the pre-reproductive individuals will occupy a base, followed by a reproductive age people, then followed by at the top post-reproductive age group people. Okay. See, in the first age pyramid, it is a triangular age pyramid, no? So in the triangular age pyramid, the pre-reproductive individuals ಏನಿದ್ದಾರೆ, so the pre-reproductive individuals are more, okay, whereas the reproductive age individuals are moderate and the post-reproductive individuals are comparatively fewer in number. So indicating that this is an expanding population. Why? Because see here, the pre-reproductive age group people are more, no? More and more people will enter into the reproductive age. Okay, so this age pyramid is showing a rapidly growing human population. So the A is expanding age pyramid. It is showing it is expanding. Then B is, so see in the B age pyramid, that is a bell-shaped pyramid, alva. So here, see here, the pre-reproductive age individuals are almost equal to the reproductive age individuals, right? So, but whereas see here, the post-reproductive age individuals are comparatively less. So here pre-reproductive individuals are almost equal to reproductive age individuals, alva. So there is no increase or decrease in the growth of a population size. So the growth is almost zero here. So this is representing a stable population. So B is representing a stable population. And C, when it comes to C, it is odd shape. So here the reproductive age individuals are more in number when compared to pre-reproductive age group people and the post-reproductive age group people, right? So this is indicating that as pre-reproductive individuals are less in number, no, when compared to reproductive age group people, so it is indicating that the population is going to decline with the time. Okay, as only few individuals will enter into the reproductive age. So this is showing a declining population. So A is expanding, B is stable, whereas C is declining. So the right option here is the first one. So the first option is correct here. Okay. Then next question. The stage of suspended development shown by zooplanktons is called hibernation, estivation, homeostasis, diapause. The stage of suspended development shown by zooplanktons is called hibernation, estivation, homeostasis, and the diapause. See, environmental conditions. If we talk about environmental conditions, the environment is not static, it keep on changing. Okay, so it keep on changing. To live in such a changing environmental condition is really challenging for the organisms. So, to avoid this extreme environmental conditions, some of the animals, they go for migration, like birds. They move from an unfavorable area to a favorable place. But there are some other organisms which cannot migrate to a larger place alva. So those organisms which cannot take up migration, so they avoid the stress by escaping in time. Okay, like for example hibernation. The bears, hibernation, it is nothing but what? Winter sleep. So the bears ಏನಿದೆ, they will go for to escape from the cold in the winter. The bear will go for a hibernation, that is winter sleep. They take up a long sleep in the winter, so thereby they escape from too much cold. And estivation is summer sleep. We call it as a summer sleep. Some fishes, okay, they will take up a summer sleep. So summer sleep alli enagutte andre, so they go for a long sleep in the summer season to avoid summer related problems. Some snails and the fishes will take up estivation. And homeostasis, here they are given. Homeostasis is the maintenance of internal environment of the body constant, that is with respect to temperature ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು, ionic concentration, that is pH ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು, water balance ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು. Okay, so that is maintenance of the internal environment of the body constant, that is called as homeostasis. The fourth option they have given is diapause. So diapause here is, it is nothing but a stage of suspended development. So the zooplanktons which are found in lakes and ponds, no, they undergo a stage of a suspended development, that is called as diapause. So the right option here is diapause. A stage of suspended development shown by zooplanktons is called as diapause. So fourth option is correct here. Then next question. Which one of the following is not a parasitic adaptation? First one is loss of digestive organs. Second one is loss of unnecessary sense organs, development of adhesive organs, and loss of reproductive capacity. So parasitic adaptation. So adaptation is nothing but what? So adaptation is any attribute of the organism which enable the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat, that is called as adaptation. So the various organisms evolved adaptation to live and survive in a changing environmental condition. So one such adaptation shown by parasites. So parasites are nothing but what? So these parasites are dependent upon, the parasites are the organisms which dependent on other species for their food and shelter, right? So the species which give food and shelter to the parasite is called as a host. So the parasites are dependent on host for their food and shelter. So the parasites will live inside or on the body of some other species, right? So here the parasites, no, they are living in endoparasites, if you take example, or else the ectoparasites. So they have to attach to the host body alva to get a food. So, and some of the parasites, endoparasites particularly, they are living in such an environment. They are living in, some of the parasites, no, they are living in alimentary canal. Okay, so living in such an environmental condition, it is really challenging for parasites also. So for that they have adopted certain modifications like loss of digestive organs. So as they directly absorb the digested food from the host, there is no need of digestive organs in the parasites alone. So the loss of digestive organ is one of a parasitic adaptation. Loss of unnecessary sense organs. So it is also one of the parasitic. Loss of unnecessary sense organs. That is also one of the parasitic adaptation. Development of adhesive organs. So for attachment to the host body, the parasites will develop hooks and suckers. Okay, so they have got an adhesive organs. They have developed an adhesive organs for attachment to the host body. So that is also right. And they have to show, they show high reproductive capacity. But here in this option, they have given loss of reproductive capacity anta kottidare. So this is not a parasitic adaptation. Instead, they show the parasites have a high, they show high reproductive, they have a high reproductive capacity. So the fourth option is correct here. That means fourth option is not a parasitic adaptation. So the right answer here is fourth one. The next question. Which of the following statements regarding responses of the organisms to abiotic factors is false. Shivering is a kind of exercise which produces heat and raises body temperature. Majority of the animals and nearly all plants cannot maintain a constant internal environment. Very small animals are commonly found in polar regions as they have to spend less energy to generate body heat. All birds and mammals are capable of thermoregulation. Which of the following statements regarding responses of organisms to abiotic factors is false? Shivering. See, as environment is keep on fluctuating, to live in such a changing environment, as I said, it is challenging for organisms. No, even though the environment is fluctuating, many organisms have survived. During the course of million years of survival, they have evolved a mechanism. Okay, so that is our homeostasis, that is maintenance of the internal environment of the body constant. So with respect to temperature ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, that we call it as thermoregulation, or maintenance of body fluids concentration, we call it as osmoregulation. Okay, so these are all the some of the options given here are the some of the examples, response of organisms to abiotic factors. So first option what they have given, shivering is a kind of exercise which produces heat and raises the body temperature. So usually mammals and birds, they are capable of thermoregulation, alva. So they maintain their body temperature constant irrespective of changes in the ambient temperature, that is external temperature. So by a mechanism, through a mechanism they have, like shivering is a kind of exercise which produces heat and raises the body temperature. See, whenever the temperature is low outside, okay, outside temperature kadme iddaga, so enagutte, usually we start shivering alla. So shivering agodinda enagutte, muscles contraction agutte, so that will generate a heat. Okay, so it is a kind of exercise that we given to the body, so that will produces heat, so that heat production agodinda body temperature enagutte, rise agutte. So this is a correct only. Then second option is majority of the animals and nearly all plants cannot maintain a constant internal environment. Of course, a majority of the animals, nearly 99% of the animals and nearly all plants, they cannot maintain a constant internal environment. Okay, so they are called as conformers anta heli ನಾವು ಕರೀತೀವಿ. Okay, so that is true only. Then very small animals are commonly found in polar regions as they have to spend less energy to generate a body heat. This statement is false. Why? Because see, thermoregulation is not seen in all the animals, alva. So why? Because thermoregulation enida, it is energetically expensive. Not all the organisms are not capable of producing that much of energy which is required for the generation of heat, particularly the small animals. So because heat loss or heat gain is it is related to surface area. Okay, heat gain or heat loss, it is related to surface area. When you talk about the small animals, they have a large surface area when compared to their body volume. ಅದು ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅವು ಬಾಡಿ ವಾಲ್ಯೂಮ್ಗೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಸರೌಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಸರ್ಫೇಸ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಸೊ ದೇ ಟೆಂಡ್ ಟು ಲೂಸ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಹೀಟ್ when the temperature is cold, that is too cold outside. So to generate a heat again, that requires more energy. They have to spend more energy. Okay, so that is not possible. So for such animals, the thermoregulation is an energetically expensive process. They are unable to produce that much of energy. So very small animals are commonly found in polar regions where the temperature is less, as they have to spend more energy to generate body heat. So to generate body heat, they require to generate more energy, and they spend more energy to generate a body heat. So the third option is wrong here. Then fourth option, all birds and mammals are capable of thermoregulation. Yes, this is the right statement only. All mammals and birds are capable of thermoregulation. They can maintain their constant body temperature irrespective of their external environmental temperature. So they are called as homeothermic animals ಅಂತಾನೆ ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅವಕ್ಕೆ. So first option is also correct, second option is also correct, fourth option is also correct, but third option is wrong. So the false statement here is the third option. The next question. Allen's rule applies to tribes living in high altitudes, mammals from colder climates, fish living in Antarctic waters, desert lizards. Allen's rule applies to, see, it's also a kind of adaptation. So the various organisms have adapted to their living environment for their survival, right? So one such adaptation is Allen's rule. So that applies to the mammals from colder climates have shorter ears and limbs to minimize the heat loss. So the mammals which are living in colder climates, no, so they tend to reduce their body size. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ to minimize the heat loss. Heat loss ಆಗೋದನ್ನ prevent ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ they always tend to reduce their body size. So mammals from colder climates have smaller ears and limbs to minimize the heat loss. So this is called as what? Allen's rule. Then next, so the second option is correct here. Next question. Some organisms are tolerant to a narrow range of salinity and are termed as, first option, euryhaline, neither euryhaline nor stenohaline. Third option, stenohaline. Fourth option is saline. So some organisms which are tolerant to a narrow range of salinity. Salinity anta heladra salt concentration. See, water is also one of the important abiotic factor which is required for the survival of the life. No life exists without water, right? And even aquatic organisms kuda, even though they are aquatic organisms, they also face some water related problems. So here the quality of the water, that is chemical composition of the water, its pH, its salt concentration has an effect on the aquatic organisms, right? So here some organisms are tolerant to narrow range of salinity. Salinity anta helidre salt concentration. So some organisms are tolerant to narrow range of salinities. They are called as stenohaline. Whereas some organisms are tolerant to a wide range of salinities. They are called as euryhaline. So here they have given some organisms are tolerant to a narrow range of salinity and are termed as stenohaline. So third option is correct here. Then next question. The organisms found in boiling thermal springs are actinomycetes, first option. Second option is protists. Third option is fungi. Fourth option is archaebacteria. So the organisms found in boiling thermal springs are thermal springs anta heladre. So in boiling thermal springs the temperature is very high. It is too high. It may go up to 100 degrees Celsius. Okay. So the organisms, some of the examples for the organisms which are living in such a extreme temperature, that is in the thermal springs, are in the given option are the archaebacteria. Okay. So these archaebacteria are found living in the thermals. They are found in the thermal springs because they are able to withstand this extreme temperature because of their chemical composition of the cell membrane that will enable these archaebacteria to withstand this extreme temperature so that they can survive even in that extreme temperature also. So the examples for the organisms found in boiling thermal springs are the archaebacteria. Then next question. For which of the following population the population size measured indirectly without actually counting them or seeing them? I'll read the question once again. For which of the following population the population size measured indirectly without actually counting them or seeing them? First option, fishes. Second option, Siberian cranes. Third option, all of the above. Fourth option, tigers. See, population density. Usually the population density or the size of a population, how it is measured? It is measured by counting the total number of individuals present in a particular place, or else it's a percent cover of the biomass. So, but the population density can also be measured indirectly. Okay, so one such indirect measurement of population size is tiger census. So the tiger census in the national park and the tiger reserves in India, no? So they are based on the pug marks and the fecal pellets. So tiger population, the size, that is population size of the tiger population is counted by, it is indirectly counted, not by directly counting the number of tigers in a national park or tiger reserves, but indirect measurement is taken. Indirectly it is measured. The number of the tiger population is indirectly measured. It is mainly based on the pug marks. Pug marks ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಗುರುತು ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಗುರುತು ಮತ್ತೆ ಫೀಕಲ್ ಪೆಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಟೈಗರ್ದು, ಆ ಫೀಕಲ್ ಪೆಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಗುರುತಿನ ಆಧಾರದ ಮೇಲೆ ಸೊ ಟೈಗರ್ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಈ ಒಂದು ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಟೈಗರ್ ರಿಸರ್ವ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಟೈಗರ್ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಮೆಷರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮೆಷರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಸೈಜ್. So the right option here is the fourth option, that is the tiger. For which of the following population the population size measured indirectly without actually counting or seeing them? That is the tigers. Tiger census, which is measured indirectly. Got it? Next question. Which part of the world has high density of organisms? First option, deciduous forests. Second option, grasslands. Third option, savannas. Fourth option, tropical rainforests. So which part of the world has a high density of organisms? Of the four given options, the right option is tropical rainforest. Why? Because this tropical rainforest, no, they are located near the equator, which supports a maximum biodiversity. So a maximum biodiversity is seen in the tropical rainforest. So the right option here is the fourth one, that is the tropical rainforest. So which part of the world has high density of organisms? It is tropical rainforest. Fourth option is correct. The next question. Resource partitioning is an important mechanism which promotes. First option, antibiosis. Second option, competitive exclusion. Third option is coexistence. The fourth option is competitive release. See, resource partitioning is nothing but what? Whenever are two species competing for the same resource, they could avoid competition by choosing a different time for feeding and different foraging pattern. Okay, so that will promote coexistence rather than exclusion. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ competitive exclusion ಏನು ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ? Gauss competitive exclusion principle. Whenever two closely related species are competing for the same resource. Okay, ಯಾವುದೇ ಎರಡು closely related species ಒಂದೇ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಕಾಂಪೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ they cannot coexist indefinitely. The competitively inferior one will be eliminated eventually. ಎರಡು coexist ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವುದು competitively inferior ಇರುತ್ತೆ that is eliminated ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. But there are recent studies have shown that the species which are competing for the resources now, they might have evolved certain mechanisms so that can promote coexistence rather than the exclusion. One such example, one such mechanism is resource partitioning. So in resource partitioning, if the whenever two species competing for the same resource, they could avoid competition avoid ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಹೇಗೆ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು? By changing different time for feeding. ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ feeding ಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಟೈಮ್ ನ ನಿಗದಿಪಡಿಸತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ಜೊತೆಗೆ by adopting that is different forage patterns. Okay, so that will promote what? Coexistence. So the right option here is coexistence. So what is the fourth option? Competitive release ಅಲ್ಲ. So competitive release is an evidence for the occurrence of competition in nature, but the fourth third option is correct here. Resource partitioning is an important mechanism which promotes coexistence. Third option is correct. The next question. Cuckoo and crow are the examples of ectoparasites. Second option, brood parasitism. Third option, predation. Fourth option, competition. See, cuckoo and crow are the examples of a brood parasitism. So, brood parasitism means what? It is a type of parasitism only where the parasitic bird, no, it will lay its egg in the host nest. Let the host to incubate the eggs. So, here the parasitic bird is the cuckoo, which will lays its egg in its host nest, that is the crow nest. So, through course of evolution, the eggs of cuckoo, no, they resemble the crow egg with respect to the size, okay, and also the color. So the crow is unable to differentiate the foreign eggs. The crow think that it is their eggs and it will incubate the eggs. So cuckoo and crow are so such a type of parasitism, it is called as brood parasitism. Cuckoo and crow are the examples of brood parasitism. So second option is correct here. The next question. Sexual deceit is implied by first option yucca, second option fix, third option orchid, and the fourth option is pinus. So sexual deceit is implied by. So you know that orchids, know the orchids have evolved different floral parts, different patterns in their floral parts to attract the insects for pollination. So usually plant animal association ನೋಡಿದಾಗ mutualism ನೋಡಿದಾಗ the plant gets pollinated by the animals. In turn, the animals will get reward from the plants in the form of a nectar and the pollen grains. But there are certain orchids will not give any reward to the pollinator. One such example is a Mediterranean orchid, that is Ophrys. So which implies a sexual deceit. That means one of the petal of its flower, no, it resembles to that of a female bee. Okay, it's pollinator species. So with respect to the size, color, and also on the markings. So one of this petal will exactly resemblance with that of the female bee. So that the male bee thinks that it is a female bee and it pseudo copulates with the female bee. So during this pseudo copulation, the pollen grains are dusted onto the bee, and when the same bee pseudo copulates with another flower, it will transfer the pollen grains. So the pollination has achieved here. Alva. So that is called as what? Sexual deceit. So the sexual deceit is implied by the orchid. It is implied by the orchid. So the third option is correct here. Then next question. Which of the following is a conduit for energy transfer across trophic levels? I will read the question once again. Which of the following is a conduit for energy transfer across trophic levels? First one is mutualism. Second one is parasitism. Third is predation. Fourth is proto-cooperation. So here, which of the following is a conduit for energy transfer across the trophic levels? So predation is the right answer. So in predation, one of the species get benefited. That is, the predator get benefited because it eats on the prey, alva. So the prey species is harmed, other species is harmed. So in predation, one of the species get benefited and the other is harmed. And predation will play a very important role in an ecosystem as they transfer energy across the that is trophic levels. So predation, it's a natural way of transferring the energy which is fixed by the green plants to a higher trophic levels. See, for example, autotrophic organisms togondre, majority of the green plants, they are autotrophs, they are capable of synthesizing their own food. So the solar energy, the green plants will trap the solar energy, fix the solar energy, and they can synthesize their own food. So when these form a producers, the autotrophic organisms of the green plants will form the producers. They are called as producers. So as they fix the solar energy, they can prepare their own food. So they occupy a first trophic level. Then the herbivorous animals which eat on these plants, no, they form the primary consumers and they occupy a second trophic level. And the secondary consumers which eat on primary consumers, no, they occupy a third trophic level and so on. So the energy which is fixed by the green plants, the solar energy which is fixed by the autotrophic organisms, that is the producers, will transfer to a successive or the higher trophic levels. So when the herbivorous, that is the primary consumers, eat on the green plants, the energy is transferred from first trophic level to second trophic level. Similarly, when the secondary consumers eat on primary consumers, the energy is transferred from second trophic level to the third trophic level. So like this, the energy which is fixed by the green plants is transferred across the trophic level. So here the predation is a conduit for energy transfer across the trophic levels. So what is the question? Which of the following is a conduit for energy transfer across the trophic levels? That is, predation is a conduit for energy transfer across the trophic levels. The next question. Which of the following pair of character contribute to an increase in population density? First option is mortality and emigration. Second option is natality and immigration. Third option is emigration and natality. Fourth option is immigration and mortality. So let us discuss what are these terms first. So what is natality here? So natality means it is the birth rate, number of births in the population during a given period, whereas mortality is the number of deaths in the population during a given period. And immigration is what? Immigration is nothing but the number of individuals that have come into the habitat from somewhere else, okay, during the time period under consideration. And emigration means what? The number of individuals who have left the habitat and they have gone somewhere else during the time period under consideration. Okay. So natality is number of birth, mortality, number of death, immigration, number of individuals that have entered into the habitat, and emigration is number of individuals that have left the habitat. So which of the following is a pair of character contribute to an increase in the population density? So first option is mortality and emigration. So this is wrong. Why? Because mortality and emigration, mortality death alva, and emigration the individuals who left, so that is responsible for decreasing the population density. And natality and immigration, so the natality will add new individuals to the already existing population, and similarly the immigration also add individuals to the already existing population alva. So this is responsible for increasing the population density. So natality and immigration are responsible for increase in the population density. So third option what they are given, emigration and natality. Emigration is, it will not contribute to increase in population density, rather it causes decrease in population density. So third option is wrong. Fourth option is immigration and mortality. Mortality is death rate Allah. So the number of individuals will lost from the population, right? So this will also not contribute to increase in population, rather it causes mortality there. Mortality ಆದರೆ population density ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ decrease ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So immigration and mortality, they are not responsible for increase in the population density. So the right pair of character that contribute to an increase in population density is the natality and immigration. That is the second one. So the second one is correct here. Natality and immigration. Got it? So all the questions are completed. I will end up the session. Hope you have understood all the concepts.